Something unusual happened at the Bordeaux Challenger final, and it had nothing to do with the trophy ceremony. Just seconds after winning one of the biggest matches of his season, Juan Manuel Cerundolo created a moment that instantly set tennis fans talking around the world. He walked to the net, shook hands with his opponent, celebrated the title, and then appeared to deliberately ignore the chair umpire. No handshake, no acknowledgement, just a cold walk past the official as the cameras kept rolling. That single moment turned a hard-fought challenger final into one of the most talked-about scenes of the week, and it may say a lot about how intense that match really became behind the scoreline. Juan Manuel Cerundolo came into Bordeaux looking for momentum, but by the end of the tournament, he had found much more than that. He captured the title in dramatic fashion, defeating Raphael Collignon in a gripping three-set battle that swung wildly from start to finish. The final score was 5-7, 6-1, 7-6, but numbers alone do not tell the full story. This was a match packed with tension, frustration, and a finish that no one expected. The first set the tone immediately. It was tight, physical, and full of long rallies that forced both players into uncomfortable positions. Collignon edged it 7-5, but even during that opening set, it was clear this was not going to be a straightforward final. Both players were visibly emotional, questioning calls, exchanging glances toward the chair umpire, and trying to maintain focus while the atmosphere kept getting heavier. Cerundolo's response in the second set was exactly what champions do under pressure. He did not panic. He reset. Suddenly, he began dictating points with much more authority, moving Collignon side to side and using his clay court instincts to completely flip the match. The second set ended 6-1, but the score almost felt misleading because every game was still packed with intense exchanges. Cerundolo simply raised his level at exactly the right time. What made this final so compelling was not just the tennis, but the emotional energy around it. There were several disputed moments during the match, and while challenger events do not always receive the same global attention as ATP Masters or Grand Slams, the emotions on court can be just as explosive. In Bordeaux, those emotions never really cooled down. Each controversial call seemed to add another layer of tension. By the time the deciding set arrived, both players looked physically drained but mentally locked in. It was the kind of set where every point felt like it could decide the title. Neither player gave much away. The rallies stayed brutal, the serves became more pressured, and every crowd reaction added to the drama. When it reached the tiebreak, you could sense that whoever held their nerve for a few key points would walk away with the trophy. That player was Cerundolo. He played the tiebreak with remarkable composure, especially considering how chaotic the match had become emotionally. He stayed aggressive when it mattered most, trusted his baseline game, and closed out the biggest points with the calm of someone who knew this title could change his season. When the final point ended, he dropped the pressure instantly and let the emotion take over. Then came the moment everyone is talking about. Cerundolo walked toward the net and shared a respectful handshake with Collignon. That part looked normal. But as he moved toward the umpire's chair, the expected post-match gesture never happened. Instead of shaking the official's hand, he appeared to intentionally bypass him entirely. The cameras caught it clearly, and within minutes, the clip was circulating online, sparking debate among tennis fans. Some viewers immediately criticized the move, arguing that regardless of disagreements during a match, players should always show basic respect to officials. Others defended Cerundolo, pointing out that the tension during the final had clearly boiled over and that emotional reactions are not uncommon after high-stakes matches. Either way, the incident instantly overshadowed what had been a tremendous title run. What makes this even more interesting is that Cerundolo had been one of the most impressive players of the entire week. He dropped only one set during the tournament, showing the kind of consistency that often signals a player building serious confidence before a major event. This was not a lucky run. He outplayed strong opponents, handled pressure moments, and looked increasingly dangerous on clay. 5. After the match, Cerundolo spoke openly about how difficult the final had been. He emphasized the physical challenge, especially because rain earlier in the day had made conditions tricky. On clay, weather changes can dramatically alter bounce and movement, and that forces players to constantly adjust. He explained that the long rallies and stop-start conditions demanded total concentration from the first point to the last. That comment matters because it gives context to the ending. When a player spends nearly 3 hours grinding through a final under difficult conditions, emotions can become raw. Every disputed call feels bigger. Every missed chance hurts more. By the end, reactions are not always polished. They are real. Still, moments like this always raise bigger questions in tennis. Where is the line between understandable frustration and unsportsmanlike conduct? Tennis has always valued etiquette, from handshakes to post-match interviews, but the sport is also intensely individual. There is no teammate to absorb pressure, no coach sitting courtside giving instructions. When something goes wrong, the player feels all of it alone. That can create moments like the one in Bordeaux. For Cerundolo, the bigger picture may actually be positive despite the controversy. Winning his 12th challenger title is a major achievement, especially at a time when the clay season is reaching its peak. Confidence on this surface can carry over quickly, and his next stop could be even more important. He is expected to continue his clay campaign at the Geneva Open, where he is scheduled to face Laszlo Djere in the opening round. That is a fascinating matchup because Djere is one of the more dangerous clay court players outside the top tier, and it will immediately test whether Cerundolo can carry his Bordeaux form into ATP-level competition. And that is why this story matters beyond one awkward handshake. This could be the start of a momentum shift for Cerundolo. At 23, he is still in the phase of his career where one strong clay swing can completely change ranking opportunities, draw positions, and confidence entering bigger tournaments. With Roland Garros approaching, every match matters, especially for players trying to break into the spotlight before Paris. The controversy may dominate social media for a day or two, but coaches and players will be looking at something else: his tennis. Cerundolo's ability to recover after losing the first set, dominate the second, and then stay composed in a deciding tiebreak shows a level of maturity that could make him a dangerous floater in upcoming draws. No top seed wants an informed clay specialist in the early rounds of a major. What happens next will be interesting. The ATP rarely ignores viral incidents involving player-official interactions, but whether this leads to any formal discussion or simply fades as a heated post-match moment remains to be seen. Challenger events often produce passionate scenes that pass without major consequences. Yet because the video spread so quickly, this one has drawn much more attention than a typical post-match dispute. In some ways, the incident also reveals why tennis remains so captivating. A challenger final in Bordeaux would normally stay under the radar for casual fans. But one emotional moment turned it into a global conversation. Suddenly, a tournament many did not watch became a talking point across the tennis community. And maybe that is the biggest takeaway. Cerundolo did not just win a title. He announced himself in a way people are now paying attention to. Some are talking about the handshake snub. Others are talking about the level of tennis he produced all week. Either way, he is now part of the conversation heading into one of the most important stretches of the clay season. The question is whether this fiery moment was just frustration after a difficult final, or a glimpse into the mindset of a player who believes he is ready for something much bigger. As Cerundolo heads to Geneva and then potentially into Paris, fans will be watching closely. Not just to see if he wins again, but to see whether Bordeaux was the beginning of a breakthrough or simply one unforgettable week filled with drama. What do you think? Was Cerundolo justified in snubbing the umpire after such a tense final? Or should players always shake hands no matter what happened during the match? Let us know in the comments, because this is one tennis controversy that people are not agreeing on anytime soon.